Welcome back to my channel, my minions. My name is Tina, and today it's time for another makeup and murder. Today I am doing a Elvira inspired look. I'm going to be using the Elvira palette from Lunatic Labs. I did my best. I am nowhere as fabulous as the Mistress of Darkness herself. We're going to attempt to do a look similar to this. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to show you the actual photo up there to go with the Mistress of Darkness because she is like one of my heroes. I am going to be talking about one of the most famous female serial killers of all time. Everybody's heard of her, whether you know it or not. She inspired Bram Stoker's Dracula. Her name is Elizabeth Báthory, and she is supposedly the most serial killeriest of women serial killers. In her notes, she claimed to have killed over 650 people. If you're ready to talk about the Blood Countess of Báthory, let's get going. As I've been doing lately, I will be putting the makeup up instead of talking about it. That way we can go through this a little quicker. It's easier for me to remember where I'm at while I'm talking about the murders. I am going for a very pale look today, so just so you know, it's on purpose. I'm sure you've all heard the myths about the Countess. Most of these aren't true. They came in the 1700s and later when Bram Stoker was writing Bram Stoker's Dracula. A lot of what actually happened there has been mythologized. So she didn't bathe in a bath full of virgin's blood. She didn't drink virgin's blood. She didn't have some iron deficiency, so she needed their blood. None of that is true. The other thing I don't think is true that I hear people say a lot is that it was all just a big setup and her son-in-law and sons wanted her property. Back then, women weren't really well thought of, and even though she had it all, she was well educated, she could speak 4 languages, read and write 4 languages, she was rich, she was titled, she was the niece of the King of Poland and married into the royal family of Transylvania. I think it's unlikely that anybody set her up. Do I think that this may have been somewhat exaggerated by her like most serial killers do? Absolutely. The Countess Elizabeth was born in 1560. And like I said, she had it all. She had money, she had power. She married into the Báthory family, who basically ruled Transylvania at the time as part of their own little fiefdom. They were part of a kingdom and ruled over by the king of that country, but she had her own rule there and could do whatever the heck she wanted, and she did. Apparently it was the Kingdom of Hungary. In 1575, she was 15, which sounds young, but back then people married much younger. She married Count Francescus Nasati. I'll show you the spelling, probably without all the funny little squiggles. She marries him at 15, and everything seems to be, going as planned. She bears him 4 children. I believe 2 of them are sons and 2 are daughters. She marries into the royal family of Hungary. For all we know, for the first probably 20 years or so, everything seems to be going fine. Then in about 1602, there start being murmurings that something's going on. The peasants are upset. They keep saying that their girls are going missing who go to the castle to work in the castle, which was well-paid work for that area of the world at the time. There's also a whole lot of abductions of girls going on in this area and the other areas of the world that she has homes in. I'll get into that in a little bit. There start being murmurings like in 1602. And by this time, her husband isn't at home as much. He's off at war. He's in his 40s and apparently trying to conquer some more land, even though he has plenty. So she's being left alone. And all of a sudden, this starts happening. Coincidence? But then in 1604, her husband dies at 47, supposedly are of battlefield wounds. And this is when things apparently take a fever pitch. People are really disappearing. So it makes it all the way to the court in the Kingdom of Hungary. The king there is like, this can't be true. No countess of ours would do that. It's just the peasants being peasants. And besides that, it's their property. If they want to impale or whatever people, I don't care. And then later on, some of the lower gentry who were going there to learn etiquette and how to behave at court, kind of like ladies in waiting, except for they have a really long word for it there. I think the word is gymnasium, so they're going there to learn that. Well, those girls start disappearing, and this they can't really ignore anymore. In 1610, a whole like 7 to 10 years after this starts being reported, they finally send a team of people over there to investigate. Now, I believe they're called Minsters. So finally the Minster and 2 notaries are sent. The Royal Minster Glazo, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And he takes off for over there to check out what's going on. But it's a long ways away. You know, they have to travel by carriage and horseback and stuff. So it takes a while for them to get there. And by the time they get there, the whole place is kind of in an uproar. People are angry because so many girls have gone missing at this point that, you know, something's going on. Thrazzo and his notaries, they get to the castle, and what do they find? They find a dead girl, an almost beaten to death girl, and several other girls locked up in the basement. Did they take her to jail? Did they behead her? No. They do an investigation, and that investigation takes about a year. They collect 4 witnesses, 300 statements from the peasants, which was really weird because back then, you know, for all they knew, they weren't going to do anything with her. They hadn't done anything so far, and odds were they weren't going to do anything at all. Speaking out against her was very, very scary. So the fact that 300 of them were like, yeah, she's doing stuff. The problem is that even with those 300 statements, they allowed a type of testimony that you heard of in the Salem witchcraft trials called hearsay. And basically, I dreamed it. Before you think, haha, her kids were out to get her. Yeah, I don't think so. Because if she had been hung, they would have lost it all. They would have gotten nothing. They would have been distitled. Everything would have been taken away. That would have been it for them. So they get on their horses and ride to the king. Wait, stop. You can't do this. This is a royal family. It creates this big scandal. What's going to happen to the rest of us? The king says, okay, they kind of make a backroom deal. The king doesn't really understand at that point what's going on. We're not going to put her on trial. Instead, they bring back her 4 accomplices. And these are the servants she had that waited on her, you know, her beck and call and all that. Not including the guys who were kidnapping the girls off the road, apparently. When they get these back to court, the servants and everything, and they have a trial. The trial was overseen by a Supreme Royal Judge and 20 associate judges. So they bring her accomplices in, who were Datia Senzata Starko, Ilana Jo, Katrina Benko, and Jonas Ujave, Ibis or Fico. So those are the 4 servants they drag in there. They bring in the 4 witnesses. There were 4 specifically they brought in who either eyewitnesses or had a very good knowledge of what was going on. The other witnesses were pointless. And all of this is still in the records in Hungary, by the way. They still exist, along with Elizabeth Báthory's journal, in which she says all kinds of things. But it's in, like, whatever they wrote in at that time, which I have no idea what language that was. The torturers describe multiple types of torture. Nobody says she drinks blood or any of that, though. There was no bathing in it. Instead, it was the stuff that you see a lot from these kind of people. There was beatings so severe her subjects died, mutilations. She would mutilate their hands, their feet, their genitalia. She would freeze and burn them. Whatever struck her fancy, because this is what sadists do, and she was definitely a sadist. She did mutilations, different types of botched surgery. She would bite them, physically bite them. It's the kind of thing that's just too horrible to contemplate, but is kind of what people like that do when they're left unchecked. Unlimited victims. They said in the botched surgeries that needles were involved. She did it all. Okay, so I'm going to take that red. Unfortunately, it's what Dahmer and the Green River Killer and Gaines and all those guys would have done if you had left them unchecked and left them with minions to help kill people with. Serial killers like Charlie Manson, who used other people to kill, she used them to help people. And some serial killers do that. They kill in pairs. She did whatever struck her fancy because she could get away with it. These guys would have done the same thing if they had been able to get away with it. She did. The court is horrified by this. They take 3 of the accomplices and immediately take them out, rip out their fingernails, and toss them alive into a fire. The only one they didn't do that to was Fitz, whom they didn't find as guilty. So they built a scaffolding for him, and a few days later chopped his head off. So yeah, they were pissed. Now this trial did not happen until 1611. So you got like, it's a whole almost 2 years later, they actually get them to trial. And the king hears all this and he is not happy. What they agreed to do to Elizabeth Báthory is put her essentially in solitary confinement in her own castle. She is pretty much, she isn't actually bricked up, but people say bricked up, but she wasn't. She was put into a room and basically forgotten. And that is absolutely true, because they didn't find her body when she died until 3 or 4 days later, so they don't know her exact day of death. And the only reason they knew she died was because there was plates of food that had piled up. There had to be a way to like empty the chamber pots and all that. The actual number of women that were killed, we don't have an actual answer to that, unfortunately. It was a lot. According to Ziazo, he thought she'd killed between 30 and 50 people. He wasn't positive. She had 3 different properties. She had one in Bratislava, Savar, Vienna, and then the castle in Cathares. How many people did she actually kill? We don't know. She claims in her journal to have had the names and killed 650 girls. Because she had so many properties and the ability to travel and money to buy off people and all of that, it's entirely possible that's true. She did kill that many. I think the number is probably somewhere between 100 and 300. Nobody knows for sure. You know, they spent a lot of time after this happened looking for the bodies, because then they wanted to know. They found bodies just all over the place. There were bodies in the graveyard, there were bodies just thrown out. So unfortunately, then there's the 4 different places and different countries. Nobody is ever really gonna know where all the bodies are buried when you have somebody like that. And this is one of the main reasons I don't think anybody could have gotten away with making this up. The people saying, well, her sons had reason to do this and all that, maybe they did, but how the heck are you gonna come up with bodies like that and have 300 people testify and all those things? I don't think you're gonna get it done. I don't think that they would have staked the royal family's scandal and all that for this. Do I think royal families have done despicable things? Yes, absolutely. Do I think she did despicable things? Oh, heck yeah. The king apparently, by the time it was all done, was so mad at what she had done that he demanded that she be brought to court and answer for her crimes. By then, she was dead or dying. She didn't get a little out of control. She got all the way out of control. Well, you can see why he was so upset and wanted her brought back to answer for her crimes and everything. I think that it's entirely possible when her sons realized and son-in-law figured out, you know, that she might be tried, that they killed her. But by then, nobody cared. They just wanted her dead anyways. And what do I think of her psychologically? Well, she's a evil, evil person, that's for certain. She was definitely a sadist, somebody who got off on the torture of others. The thing about people like that is once they get going, as far as we know, they don't stop. It's like an addiction to them. They can't stop themselves. They just keep feeding and feeding it, which is, you know, what happened with her. Unless they're stopped or something, they just keep going. It's impossible for me to talk and put on lashes or anything else and put on lashes. I don't think that Elizabeth Báthory that they depict on TV all the time, who either was a victim because her kids were out to get her and wanted the land, that makes no sense. They would have gotten the property anyways in not that long. It's just how things worked at that time. I don't think you would have a case this big have happened anytime like with the royalty and it be made up. And like somebody would have came to her rescue because all that property would have been up for grabs. I'm pretty sure she was just a really nasty piece of work, a sadist with unchecked ability, all the power in the world. So I used a couple different layers of lipstick, one very red and then a dark reddish brown over the top to give it that more Elvira-y look. I don't know what shade of lipstick she uses, but it's interesting because it looks black but red-ish. Elizabeth Báthory, the Countess of Báthory, the blood tigress of Catrice. She had many names. None of them quite depict the whore she was. She had the ability to do this, and it had to have started somewhere. We can't study her because she's dead, and it was a long time ago. If she wasn't, and we could go back and talk to her family and servants and stuff, you'd find out that she had tortured and maimed or maybe even killed servants and pets as she was growing up. She probably strived to be perfect, and this was like sort of a release and her bad side or whatever, and she just let it rule her and enjoyed metaphorically bathing in the blood of her victims. I don't believe she had any of the things that I keep seeing on these shows now. She was an evil person. The fact that she was so educated and smart and capable and had everything, and she chose this. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the end of this, and I didn't have that lipstick on my teeth. Hopefully it wasn't on there forever. This is why I do not like Wet n Wild catsuit. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye! Elvira, if you're watching, which I doubt you are, but if you were, you're so one of my heroes. I watched you all the time as a kid. I love you. Ever want to do like anything, hit me up.